Daniel.
Yes.
We are very glad to have you here, and you gave us yesterday evening a wonderful speech about AI and its implications, and what might be very interesting to many of our viewers is what impact, besides the manufacturing part, has AI on businesses.
I think businesses are realizing that these technologies can perform significantly better than humans, and what we're seeing are organizations investing in applications where AI can be used to sell more things. They can be used to identify customer trends and better service the customer. But businesses are also realizing they can use AI to improve operations, to make their organizations more effective, and eventually they'll start to realize that they can make their employees more productive. They can use these technologies to change how organizations are structured, to improve the happiness and performance of employees. And those companies that don't embrace AI now are the ones that I think will lose out.
Improving the happiness of employees?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we're seeing a transition where people are not just wanting to work for money anymore. They're wanting to work for a purpose. They're wanting to work for organizations that give them freedom, autonomy, the ability to work how they want, where they want, on whatever they want. And that means we have to rethink how organizations are structured.
That fits perhaps to a strong statement you made. AI could mean the end of businesses.
Absolutely. So over the past several years, we've seen AI remove friction from companies to enable people to collaborate more effectively, to enable external entities to collaborate with the business. So we're seeing a transition towards a gig working economy. And if you take this to its extreme, then there's a future whereby we might not need to have centralized companies to gather people to drive forward particular products. Instead, you can boot up an idea and bring together all of the different skills that you need, your software developers, your designers, your leaders, to contribute towards that product or service without the idea of having a centralized company. The future of the world might be one which is decentralized, without any companies, maybe even without any countries.
And that leads us to the question, how is the impact on societies when these structures and also businesses belong to structures giving societies a certain purpose and organizing them? And when this will be replaced into platforms and the gig working issue, what will be the impact on society?
I think there's a general concern at the moment that the kind of capitalistic model that we have means that organizations are going to become more and more efficient, and that means actually removing people from their jobs. And there's this concept called the economic singularity, which is where people, at the moment, people's tasks are being replaced by AI, but at some point it might be that whole jobs will be replaced by AI, and people won't be able to retrain fast enough to be able to get a new job. And this is called the economic singularity, and it could cause mass social unrest. I don't think that governments are quite prepared for it, but I think that we need to rethink what is the nature of work, and how do we organize ourselves to enable those people to thrive and survive in this world, which I think for me moves towards an ultra gig economy where you can work anywhere you want, how you want, on whatever you want.
It seems to me a little bit like a flashback in very, very old times, 10, 15,000 years ago, before human beings were settled somewhere and started to work on a fixed place.
Yeah. I think I would love a future where people do have that freedom, and they work and collaborate together in communities. Actually, the design community is an interesting one, where many of good designers are freelancers. They work independently, and they work for whatever companies that pull them their way. But the design community still come together as a group to share knowledge, to learn from each other. So in a future world where we might have your ability to work on whatever you want, I still think we're going to have communities, people coming together, maybe collecting locally as in a tribal way, like we've seen in history.
So the difference to the tribes is the network effect.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
okay, that puts us onto a higher level.
Yeah.
On this. And when we talk about this, what will happen in this environment to countries and political organizations?
Yeah, my hope is that as people have the freedom to work from anywhere they want, countries will start to make their boundaries, make their restrictions lower, because they want to attract companies, they want to attract talent into those countries. And if all countries start to now lower their restrictions, they all maybe begin to homogenize. At the moment, what we're seeing are companies protecting their borders, trying to have control. But I think that because of AI and blockchain and other technologies, by giving people freedom to be anywhere they want, companies will try and attract that talent by making the countries as efficient and as nice as possible, and they will all homogenize, they'll all become very similar. And I would like to see a future world where we don't have countries. We don't have these different entities competing against each other for GDP.
So the movements we see nowadays, that countries tending more focusing on themselves, the nationalism in US, the Brexit in Hungary, is the last part of the cycles?
Yeah, cycle is the right word. I think if we look in history, these things have happened before and these things go in cycles, and whilst at the moment it feels like all of these countries are protecting their borders and becoming isolated, there's another movement that's happening around decentralization, partly enabled by blockchain and these other ideas, that I think that this cycle will come back and that we will become more decentralized.
Last issue. Yesterday you touched us very much because you said there will be a super intelligence in about 30 to 40 years, and this will be the last invention human beings made. Are you sure that the super intelligence not already exists?
Well, lots of people predict it will happen around the middle of our century. Some people think that given the size and the age of our universe, that actually our universe should, in theory, mathematically be teeming with life. And there's a paradox, which is when we look into the night sky, we don't see any evidence of life. And the hypothesis is that we're living in a simulation created by a superintelligence in a different universe. But I'm still trying to get my head around that concept. But I think that we will birth the superintelligence at some point, whether it be in 10 years or 100 years. And it could be the most glorious thing that happens to humanity, or it could be our biggest existential threat. And one of the reasons why I want to try and create a world where we collaborate and cooperate is because if we don't, this superintelligence will most likely see us as a threat. If we're constantly fighting each other for GDP, if we have nuclear weapons, it will see us as a threat and it will most likely remove us. And my goal is that, to increase our probability of survival is to make sure that we can demonstrate that we can survive and operate in a harmonious way.
So there is hope.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.